welcome back to Witches of the Moon. I'm your Monday hostess, Natalie. This week we are discussing pendulums and their use. Now, I think we've covered this topic before, but I'm just going to give you a basic rundown on what is a pendulum, how do you use it, what's it used for, etc., etc. I'm sure you will get a plethora of wonderful information this week on pendulums and their use. What a pendulum is merely something suspended from a string. It can be anything. It could be a ring. It could be, you could use a roach clip. You could use anything. This was my very first pendulum. I received this lovely crystal, and I really don't know what it is. I thought it was unakite, but unakite has more of an orange. This is like a purple. The colors really aren't, the camera doesn't do it justice, but it's really very pretty. But I just simply suspended it from this little green string, and this was my very first pendulum. If it's been consecrated to use, you can use it. So a lot of people think that you need something really special or some sort of fancy crystal or, a fancy spirit board. And, just a shameless plug here for my cousin Sunshine Morning Ray. Her spirit boards are the bomb. I know she hasn't made any in a while, but they are really gorgeous. So you might check out her Etsy shop. Just look up Sunshine Morning Ray. I don't remember the name of her shop off the top of my head, but she's got some really beautiful spirit boards. But really, it can be this simple. That's right, folks. This is a little note card with yes, yes, and no, no written on it. That's really all you need. Some people like to add in other things on their boards, like I'm in the process of making a few boards right now. I'm not super duper happy with this one, but because I don't like the disproportionate of that, and I'm probably going to redo the lettering here, but it says as above, so below. But I'm going to, make it yes, yes, no, no, and cannot answer. So, some people like can't answer or won't answer or something along those lines. So it can be a board like this. I'm going to pyro this. It can be a big fancy board. It can be a Ouija board even. You can use that. You can use just a piece of paper with yes, yes, and no, no written on it. I carry this with me in my little mini purse that goes into all of my other purses, and I carry at least one pendulum with me at all times. Now, how is a pendulum used? Well, it's pretty simple. Let me show you a couple of the pendulums I have. I have this one that's very simple, and like I said, you can even take a ring. Like I could take the ring off my finger, put it on a string. If it will swing, it will work as a pendulum. You could probably use your keys. I like something that's a little more even in its shaping, simply because I find that that's best. If you want a good pendulum that's going to work really, really well for you, go to a shop that sells crystals. They usually have pendulums there, and find one that you really connect with. Now, this one is the one that I use the most often. This was gifted to me, and it's got my spirit, my totem animal on it. This one is unakite, which as you can see has a little more orange to it than the purple. But basically, you would simply, what I like to do is just hold it between my fingers. Thus, I will steady the pendulum. I will hold it over the board, and I will wait for it to stop moving completely, because it will stop moving. Then I will simply ask my question. Sometimes I speak my question out loud, sometimes I don't. Now, sometimes, if my hands are kind of shaky, because sometimes my blood sugar level dips a little and I get a little shaky, I will actually take a fork and balance it on something, and I will slide this through the tines of the fork and hold it like that, so that I'm not touching the pendulum at all. And I will steady the pendulum, and then I will just simply, put the board below it, and I will ask the question, am I loved? Well, there it's swinging. Thankfully, it's swinging to yes. So, that is some of the ways that I use a pendulum. Another pendulum that I have is this lovely lepidolite one that I got from Houston. Howman. He also sent me a beautiful sodalite one that I keep in my office, actually. I like to have a pendulum wherever I go, so I make sure this is my house pendulum because it's purple. Purple is my favorite color, so I keep that here. And again, that's lepidolite. Thank you, Houston. I love it. Use it pretty frequent. This one I keep in my purse so that if I'm out or I travel, I have that one with me. This one I just recently found stuffed in one of my purses, so I'll probably repurpose this crystal to something else at this point. I might make it into a pendulum to give away, actually. Most pendulums have a point, but that is actually not necessary because what you're worried about is the swing. I think they form them this way to give them a little bit of uniformity to the weight, but anything that's flat like this is also going to be uniform in the weight. You just want to make sure that when it swings, it's swinging of its own accord. So, let's see, the other pendulum I had. I don't have it with me. So, in any case, what are some things that you can use pendulums for? Well, pendulum use is simply an easy, really basic form of divination. You would probably want to meditate or make sure that you connect on some deep level with your spirit guides before you do something like this. And then you would simply ask it a question. Now, clearly it needs to be a yes-no question. If you wanted to specify it and branch it out to something other than yes-no questions, you can expand your boards or write down things, one way, which choice should I make? Go with this decision or do this decision or do this decision. And sometimes you can get some answers that way that are not just yes or no. One of the ways that I have seen pendulums used that I am learning more about myself is accessing the Akashic records. The Akashic records, I think we're going to cover that in the next season, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but for those of you that don't know what they are, they're basically a record of every decision you've ever made throughout every lifetime you've ever lived. And sometimes the effects or the results of those decisions made in previous lifetimes, if I can't speak today, are still manifesting themselves today, and so it's affecting what's going on in the here and now. So you want to make sure that you clear that so that the decisions you make today are fresh, new, and based on what you're wanting for yourself today. Sometimes we make decisions that are rash or stupid. So accessing the Akashic records is very easy using pendulum use because it makes what you're wanting to know quite precise. When you're using a pendulum, your questions need to be precise and to the point. You can't ask like an expanded question because it needs to be just simply yes or no in most cases. Now, as I said, if there's a decision that you need to make and you've got several choices of what to do, you can put those choices out there and do it. But your questions need to be very precise for pendulums. So, you can't give like a 4-part question and expect just a simple yes or no out of that because it's going to tell you that it can't answer because you've got too many components. So it makes you break down what you do into easier steps. And so you can step through your decisions or through your questions and get some answers. I really like to use pendulum use to clarify things seen in a reading, same way that I use chiromancy. When I'm reading someone's palm, it gives me some insight to the person's personality and decisions they've made in their life, throughout their life, or the kinds of decisions they're prone to making. What is their thinking like? So when I do a reading, that informs that reading. Well, I can further inform a reading with pendulum use. If I'm getting cards that aren't real clear to me, or for some reason I'm seeing multiple meanings in the cards, using a pendulum to clarify that reading is a really good thing to do, because then again, my questions have to be precise. So if I have 2 cards that I'm just not sure what's going on with it, perhaps, you have the 9 of Swords and the Devil card, okay? And so you're trying to determine if this deals directly with an addiction and if it's dealing with the person themselves or someone in their immediate circle. You can use a pendulum to help clarify that reading. So am I looking at the person themselves? Is this an addiction or a problem that they're facing? Because remember, not all addictions are drugs or alcohol. There are other addictions, or there are other things. You can be addicted to a relationship that is toxic and that you keep going back to this person. So if you're trying to get that beat on it, you can use a pendulum read to see if that clarifies your reading at all. So I really like to use pendulums for that. I like to use pendulums for quick decisions or to help me find things that I have lost. And you're going to have to forgive my daughter's dog. She's very old, and I don't know if she needs to go out again, which I just took her out, or if she's just in pain and she's not feeling well because she's old. Do you need to go potty? Okay. So that answers that question. I could use the pendulum. Does she need to go to the potty? But in any case, those are some of the ways in which you can use a pendulum: clarifying tarot readings, accessing Akashic records, connecting with your spirit guides, finding things that are lost. Is it in the house? Is it outside? Is it near me? Is it far? questions like that. It forces you to be very precise in what you need to know. So it's an easy form of divination. It's very good for people who are beginners to the craft, but it's an excellent way to connect with spirit guides and to really get your feet wet in the divination world. So again, that's really all I have to offer today on this subject. If you are interested in a custom-made spirit board of some sort, let me know. I like to make those. I also custom make scrying mirrors, so check out my page, thepurplebroomapothecary.com. It's actually just www.purplebroomapothecary.com, or shoot me an email at info@purplebroomapothecary.com, and I can get you prices and sizing. It's going to depend on what you want and that sort of thing as to how long it's going to take me and what it will cost you, but I try to keep my prices reasonable. So thank you again for watching. I appreciate it. Thank you again, and blessed be.